For this 1986 Top Gun inspired shot, I only used 2 lights. And this in a space smaller than your average bathroom. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I did it, from setting everything up to color grading it. But first, hey, I'm Konstantin, I'm a commercial filmmaker from Germany, and for today's breakdown, I challenged myself. Can I recreate the vibe of the original Top Gun movie in a tiny 6 square meter space using only 2 lights and some basic props? My goal was not to recreate a specific scene from the film, but to really convey this warm 80s California vibe. So I designed a set where a fictional Navy fighter pilot, me, lies on a bed at night after a heavy day of flight training. For that, of course, we need a moody vibe to make it feel like it's late and underline the exhaustion of the character. I started with a practical lamp in the background for a warm glow. It's just a typical tungsten light that basically everybody has at home. So just so you know, this one doesn't count as one of the budget lights in the video because it's just part of the set design. But of course, it's still important. It just grounds the scene and sets the mood, and it gives us a believable source to motivate the rest of the lighting. Next comes the key light. Now watch how this changes the mood and the overall ambience of the scene. I used a small rig RC60B, set it to 3200 Kelvin and mounted it about 30 degrees above me. To soften it, I placed a diffusion panel right in front of it, but just outside the frame. Okay, technically it's in the frame, but thanks to the aspect ratio it shows, the letterboxes hide it pretty good. What you can also see here is the key light combined with the diffusion allows me to wrap the light nice and softly around my face. It also lifts the overall ambience, but it still feels like it could be coming from the practical, even though I set it slightly cooler than the 2700 Kelvin background lamp. So it gives a nice contrast, but it's still believable. Now for the second light, I used a tube light, an ambient full A2, that I hid behind the lamp and aimed it at the military backpack and the US flag in the background. But now you might ask, why did I do that? Well, that's simple. To add a subtle edge light that gives those props dimension and keeps them from fading into the darkness. And here's another small detail. I also had to wrap half of the tube in black fabric so it doesn't spill light all over the place and still looks like it's coming from the lamp. I mean, just look at the difference before and after. That one small detail made the whole scene feel way more controlled and cinematic. Oh, and just to be transparent here, you may have noticed that the shot already looks pretty soft even before color grading. And you're right, that's because I filled up the room with haze right before shooting the scene. It just softens the whole image and creates that dreamy, glowy atmosphere in the room that just screams 1986 California. But now let's talk about the part that brings it all together: color. For the grade, I started with a basic conversion LUT to bring the log footage into Rec 709. Then I used DEHANCER with the Kodak Vision 3 500T profile and Kodak 2383 print emulation. And as always, I also added all the fun stuff: halation, bloom, and of course, grain. I always try to be really realistic when it comes to film here, so more in the shadows, less in the midtones and highlights. Not to overdo it, but just enough to make it feel like film. I also made some small tweaks in exposure and color. So I pulled down the highlights to keep the skin soft, I boosted the midtones for that warm glow, and I cooled down the shadows slightly and added a green tint for depth and more contrast, and therefore typical orange and teal kind of vibe. But here's what may surprise you. Lighting and color of course matter, but without this, the whole vibe falls apart. That said, of course, every element in this frame was chosen on purpose. To show you what I mean, let's look at the color palette. So we have some teal bluish greens with the pilot's jacket, the pillows, and the US flags over here. We've got some desaturated olive with the backpack and the pants. And for contrast, we have my warm orangey skin and yellowish practical. And to make everything moodier, the scene takes place on a black bed with a black dresser in the back. So you see, every element in this frame was chosen intentionally, nothing random. The yellow touches on the patches as well as the red colors of the flags were basically the cherry on the cake in terms of designing a set that looks like Top Gun. I mean, look at this final result and how everything from set design to lighting and color grading comes together to create this awesome look. And I've gotta admit, this shoot was more than just an experiment. It was kinda personal, because Top Gun was one of the first movies that made me fall in love with film. And with Val Kilmer's recent passing, this video here became more than just a lighting breakdown. I guess it's just a small tribute to him and his passion for the role and just the energy of the whole era. And of course, a big thanks to my host father, who was an airman in the US Air Force and gave me his original aviator's jacket as a gift years ago. I wore it proudly during this scene. And with this, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Peace.